One man, one city, 1 hour that would end an age, and with it, the breath of a republic that had ruled the known world. It is March 44th BCE. The marble streets of Rome glisten with rain. Torches sputter against the dawn wind. Somewhere in the Forum, a statue of Pompey stands dark and still, its base stained with the soot of old sacrifices. The city waits, though it does not know for what. Picture a man walking through that half-light, his robe trimmed in purple, his eyes heavy not with sleep but with thought. Julius Caesar, conqueror of Gaul, dictator of Rome, master of the Senate, master of almost everything, except the hearts of those who now walk beside him. His sandals strike the stones with calm precision, each step an echo of power that has outlived its welcome. Rome is tired of greatness, its senators whisper of freedom, its streets murmur of envy, its temples echo with prayers spoken too softly to be heard. After years of civil war, the city is both rich and empty, draped in triumphs, but hollow at its core. For every statue raised in Caesar's honor, another dagger is sharpened in secret. The morning smells of iron and wet earth. Horses snort in the distance. Vendors pull shutters open, pretending that nothing in the world has changed. But everything has. Rome is no longer a republic. It is a single man's shadow stretching across the Forum. For months, omens have filled the air. A lioness has given birth in the streets. Birds of night have gathered at noon. The soothsayer Spurinna has warned, "Beware the Ides of March." Caesar laughed, as men like him always laugh at warnings. He believed fate had already chosen him for immortality. What is one more prophecy to a man who believes himself a god? And yet even gods can dream of fear. That morning, Calpurnia, his wife, woke trembling. She had seen his statue running with blood. She begged him not to go to the Senate. He smiled, kissed her hand, and told her that cowards die many times before their deaths, the valiant only once. He rose, dressed, and prepared to meet destiny as if it were a guest invited to breakfast. Outside his villa, the air was cool. Servants waited, silent. A handful of senators arrived to accompany him: Cassius, Trebonius, Decimus Brutus, men whose faces he trusted. Their greetings were warm, their hands steady, their hearts hidden behind polished words. History remembers this morning as inevitable, but in truth it was ordinary. The cobblestones were slick with rain, the streets crowded with citizens petitioning for favors. Caesar paused often to speak with them, promising justice, smiling that calm soldier's smile. To those who saw him pass, he looked invincible. They did not know that within an hour, his body would lie at the feet of Pompey's statue, pierced 23 times by men who had once called him friend. But before that hour, there was still life. There was still breath, still the illusion that empire could be controlled by one man's will. The Senate house ahead was draped in marble calm, its steps washed clean, its doors open to the day. Inside waited those who would decide the future of Rome with blades hidden beneath their togas. As we drift toward that moment, let us slow our own breath. Imagine the world as it must have felt to them, the tremor of power in the air, the uneasy balance between reverence and fear. The empire was not yet born, but its heartbeat had already begun, pulsing through marble halls and human ambition. This is not only the story of a murder, it is the story of how belief becomes betrayal, how ideals decay into necessity, how the republic that once prided itself on freedom became a stage for one man's downfall. For the next few hours, we will walk through that story. We will see the faces behind the daggers. We will hear the whispers that filled the Forum. We will watch Rome, in its brilliance and hypocrisy, end its own republic in the name of saving it. So as you settle deeper into this night, let the noise of your world fade. Breathe as though you too are walking those rain-washed streets, the marble glistening beneath your feet. The air smells of olive oil, iron, and expectation. Ahead, the Senate doors stand open. Inside waits history. Let us begin. They called themselves liberators. To Rome, they claimed, they would give back her freedom. But freedom is a word that bends to whoever speaks it. In dim apartments near the Forum, in gardens half hidden by cypress, men whispered what could not be said aloud. Senators, generals, former allies, each carried a different wound and a single conclusion, that Caesar must die. Marcus Junius Brutus, descendant of kingslayers, scholar of Greek virtue, torn between gratitude and guilt. He had fought for Pompey once, then received Caesar's pardon. Caesar loved him, trusted him, saw in him perhaps the son he never had. That was the bomb the conspirators would use as the final weapon. Then there was Gaius Cassius Longinus, sharp-eyed, bitter, his pride still bleeding from years under Caesar's shadow. He spoke of liberty, but what he wanted was restoration, of the Senate's power, of his own place within it. Around them gathered men of lesser names, Trebonius, Decimus Brutus, Casca, Cimber, Ligarius. Some were idealists, others opportunists. All were afraid. They feared that Rome's old order was dying, that their voices were vanishing into the echo of one man's will. In private, they spoke of justice. In their hearts, they rehearsed murder. Picture one of those nights. The shutters closed, the oil lamp burning low. Cassius leans forward, voice tight as a bowstring. If we strike, we must strike clean. Not a civil war, but a surgery. Brutus sits silent, his fingers tracing the rim of his cup. He says nothing. He sees the faces of citizens cheering Caesar's name. He sees the Senate's impotence. The Republic bowed under the weight of one man's triumphs. He whispers at last, "Then it must be done in daylight, before all Rome, so that none can call it vengeance." There is a silence after that. The kind that comes when the shape of the world has just changed. Outside, the city sleeps. The Tiber slides quietly past broken temples. Dogs bark in alleys. A drunk sings an old soldier's song. Nothing in the night reveals that history has already shifted course. Yet somewhere, in a villa on the Palatine, a list of names is being written. Those who will stand in the Curia Pompeia when the moment arrives. Caesar, meanwhile, remains calm. He trusts them all. He dines with Decimus Brutus, jokes with Trebonius, praises Cassius for his vigilance. The daggers are already forged, but he walks among their owners without fear. That is the tragedy of power. It blinds not through arrogance, but through familiarity. When the world has always obeyed your will, betrayal no longer feels possible. Each man chosen for the deed carries his own justification. Cassius, ambition. Casca, disdain. Decimus, calculation. Brutus, philosophy. They speak of saving the Republic, of restoring balance, of ending tyranny. But in truth, none of them know what will come after. They imagine a return to the old Senate, the old dignity, the old laws. They do not understand that by killing one man, they will kill the Republic itself. In these final days before the Ides, Rome itself seems to hold its breath. The Senate debates honors for Caesar, new titles, new powers, a throne carved in gold. The people adore him. The soldiers worship him. He is no longer a citizen among equals, but a living symbol of Rome's expansion. To his supporters, he is the embodiment of destiny. To his enemies, the end of it. The conspirators meet again. The plan is set. March 15th, the Curia Pompeia, attached to the theatre of Pompey. A gathering under the guise of routine business. Caesar's guards will be dismissed, as tradition demands that senators enter unarmed. They will greet him with petitions, a gesture of duty, and then strike together quickly before anyone can intervene. It is Cassius who insists on numbers. He wants more blades, more certainty. Brutus resists. Too many hands, he says, and the act becomes slaughter. It must be noble, almost ceremonial. They are not butchers. They are restorers. They will not harm Mark Antony. He, Brutus insists, must live to prove their intentions pure. Cassius agrees with a smile that does not reach his eyes. For days, they live in two worlds. Senators by day, conspirators by night. They smile in public, bow to Caesar, dine with him, laugh at his jokes. And each time they do, the weight of the coming act grows heavier. They tell themselves it is for Rome. But in quiet moments, when they catch their reflections in polished bronze, they see something else. Fear. Imagine the night before the Ides. The moon is thin, pale, watching. The conspirators sleep little. Some sharpen blades beneath their lamps. Some pray to gods they barely believe in. Some drink until thought dissolves. And somewhere, Brutus dreams of his ancestor, the first Brutus, who drove out Rome's kings 5 centuries before. He wakes before dawn, sweating, knowing what he must do. The streets outside are damp again. The stones slick beneath his sandals. Rome stirs awake, unaware that before the day ends, its destiny will change forever. The Ides of March have come. Morning light filters through the clouds like pale wine. Rome is restless. The air feels charged. as though the city itself senses what is about to unfold. It is March 15th, 44th BCE, the day history will remember not for speeches or decrees, but for silence broken by the sound of steel. Julius Caesar wakes later than usual. Calpurnia stirs beside him, her breath uneven. She has dreamt again, his body bleeding in her arms, the walls of their house dripping with blood. Her words tumble out in whispers, urgent, frightened. She begs him not to leave. Stay, she pleads. The omens are too many. For a moment, he listens. He has faced armies, storms, and assassins before. But this morning, something in her voice makes him pause. He sends word to the Senate that he will not attend. The message spreads quickly through the streets, reaching men who are already dressing for murder. Cassius grows pale when he hears. If he stays home, he mutters, we are undone. It is Decimus Brutus who saves their plan. He visits Caesar's villa, smiles with the easy warmth of an old friend, and laughs away the fears. The Senate has gathered to honor you, he says. They plan to name you king, not in Rome, of course, but for the provinces. It would be ungracious not to appear. He speaks of loyalty, of expectation, of how the people will whisper that Caesar fears a woman's dream. Flattery, not reason, wins him. Caesar hesitates, then sighs. I shall go. For Rome. He dresses carefully. White toga trimmed with purple, laurel crown gleaming, the mark of triumph, and soon of tragedy. As he steps outside, the morning air is sharp, cold against his skin. A few servants follow. His litter waits. Along the way, a figure steps forward from the crowd. The soothsayer Spurina, his hood drawn low. Beware the Ides of March, he repeats softly. Caesar smiles, the soldier's smirk that hides unease. The Ides have come, he replies. Aye, says Spurina, but they are not yet gone. The litter moves on. The streets are narrow, echoing with footsteps and the murmur of vendors. Children call his name. Soldiers salute. To them he is immortal. To those walking behind him, Cassius, Casca, Brutus. He is a problem to be solved. Imagine the scene as he reaches the theatre of Pompeii. The marble steps glisten after a morning drizzle. Statues line the courtyard. Pompey's among them, his stone eyes watching the man who once defeated him. Inside, senators gather in the Curia Pompeia, pretending to review petitions. The conspirators stand in small groups, their voices low, their hands trembling under their robes. Each carries a dagger, short, double-edged, hidden beneath folds of cloth. Trebonius waits near the door. His task? Keep Mark Antony occupied outside. Brutus stands near the chair reserved for Caesar. His heartbeat hammers in his ears. Cassius cannot stop adjusting his cloak. Casca whispers a prayer to Mars. And then the doors open. Caesar enters, smiling faintly. The room rises in respect. He gestures for them to sit. Decimus guides him toward the central seat, beneath Pompey's statue, the irony unnoticed or ignored. Caesar lowers himself, sighs, and reaches for the papers before him. He begins to speak. At first it is ordinary. Petitions are presented, formalities exchanged. Then Simba steps forward, holding a scroll. He kneels, pleading for his brother's pardon. Caesar waves him away. Another approaches, repeating the plea. Caesar frowns. These matters will be considered later. And then suddenly, hands grasp his toga. He stands half rising, confusion flickering across his face. What is this violence? He begins, but the words never finish. Casca strikes first. The blade catches his shoulder, shallow but shocking. Caesar gasps, twists, and pushes Casca away. Villain, Casca, what do you? He cries. Then another blow, and another. Cassius, Decimus, Ligarius. Each joins in, their blades flashing like fragments of lightning. The room erupts into chaos. Papers scatter, chairs overturn. The senators not involved stumble back, frozen in disbelief. The sound is not the clean strike of battle, but the wet, ragged rhythm of murder. Caesar tries to move, but the circle tightens. Blood runs down his arms, soaking his robe. He staggers toward Brutus. There is a pause, almost gentle. You too, Brutus, he says, not as accusation, but as recognition, as though in that moment he sees not betrayal, but inevitability. Brutus hesitates. Then he stabs once, not deep, but enough. Caesar exhales. The strength leaves him. He pulls his robe over his face and falls at the base of Pompey's statue. The same Pompey he once defeated. The same republic he believed he had saved. 23 wounds. And silence. Outside, Trebonius releases Mark Antony. Too late. The deed is done. The conspirators stand breathing heavily, their daggers red, their eyes wide, not with triumph, but disbelief. Cassius whispers, "So fall the tyrant." Brutus answers, "Not a tyrant, a sacrifice." They look around. The Senate chamber smells of iron and smoke. Caesar's body lies still, one hand open as if reaching for the papers he dropped. The marble floor glistens with blood. Above him, Pompey's statue seems to watch, streaked crimson down its legs. Rome's greatest general is dead, and with him, the Republic has just begun to die as well. Silence. Then footsteps. Then the sound of breathing. Shallow, ragged, as if the air itself is uncertain whether to move. For a moment, no one dares to speak. The body lies still, the folds of white and purple spread like spilled milk across the marble. The scent of iron and smoke fills the curia. Those who moments before believed themselves saviors now stare at what they have done, unable to name it. Cassius wipes his blade against his sleeve. His hand shakes. He whispers, "We are free." But the words feel foreign, brittle, hollow. Brutus lowers his weapon. His voice breaks as he says, "People will understand." They must. No one answers. The chamber that once echoed with decrees and applause now holds only the faint trickle of blood as it reaches the edge of the steps. Pompey's statue looms above, a witness carved in stone to the irony that even marble could not miss. Outside, the forum hums with the ordinary noise of Rome, carts rattling over stone, merchants calling out prices, children chasing each other through the colonnades. The world has not yet learned that its master lies dead. The conspirators gather their composure. They speak in hurried tones. "We must go to the capital," says Brutus. "Not as murderers, but as liberators. We must show the people that the Republic is restored." Cassius nods. "Let us sheath our swords and walk openly. No fear." So they lift their daggers, still wet, and step out into the sunlight. The crowd parts. Faces turn. Whispers ripple through the square. Blood glints on metal. "Caesar is dead," someone mutters. Another voice answers, "Impossible!" Then, as the truth spreads, a sound like a wave rises. Gasps, shouts, and the sudden scramble of feet. The senators flee first, their togas fluttering behind them. Shopkeepers slam their shutters. Women pull children from the streets. Rome, that had once cheered his triumphs, now recoils in panic. The conspirators climb the Capitol steps. They raise their voices, shouting of liberty, of the Republic reborn. "People of Rome," cries Brutus, "we have struck not at a man, but at a tyranny. Caesar would have made himself king. We have given you back your freedom." The words echo across the square, but find no audience. Windows remain closed, doorways empty. The people listen, but they do not cheer. Freedom is an idea for those who can afford it. Most Romans know only who fed them, and it was Caesar. The man whose blood now stains the Senate floor had given them land, grain, and spectacle. His death feels less like deliverance than theft. Down in the forum, Mark Antony stands silent. Trebonius has released him, but the moment to act is gone. He moves through the crowd, his face unreadable. He sees the confusion spreading like fire through dry grass. Fear, anger, uncertainty. He sees the people searching for direction, and he understands that power is already shifting. In the curia, Caesar's body lies where it fell. A few slaves enter cautiously, carrying linen cloths. They cover the corpse. One touches the laurel crown, half broken, and weeps quietly. For them, he was not a tyrant. He was the hand that fed them. The Senate's marble now looks pale beside the red that stains it. By dusk, the conspirators control the capital, but not the city. Their voices grow thin against the rising noise below. Torches move through the streets as citizens gather, demanding to see the body, demanding to know what justice this is. Cassius paces. "They should be grateful," he mutters. Brutus answers, "They will be, when they understand." But he says it as though he no longer believes it. Night falls heavy over Rome. Fires flicker on rooftops, carried from household to household in ritual lamps. Somewhere in the distance, dogs bark. The city seems to breathe unevenly, as if waiting for an answer that will not come. Imagine the scene inside the conspirators' chamber. They sit in semicircle, faces drawn by lamplight. Outside, the murmur of crowds grows louder. "We must speak to them," Cassius says. "Show them Caesar's ambition, the crown he sought." Brutus shakes his head. "We must speak not of ambition, but of duty. We did this for Rome. Even now he clings to the idea that reason will prevail over passion, that the same people who once adored Caesar will listen to argument, to virtue, to philosophy, but the republic they claim to have saved no longer exists. It died long before Caesar did, in the corruption of its elections, in the greed of its provinces, in the silence of those who preferred bread and games to liberty. The conspirators have killed a man, not a monarchy. The world that follows will not be the one they imagine. At dawn, the people will see the body carried through the streets. They will smell the blood drying on the marble. They will remember the games Caesar promised, the debts he forgave, the triumphs he gave them to cheer, and they will decide, not with speeches but with anger, who was tyrant and who was saviour. The republic recoils. The crowd gathers. And the first shadows of vengeance begin to move. Dawn over Rome. The sky glows pale red above the temples, the colour of iron left too long in the rain. The Curia Pompeia stands silent. Inside, the blood has dried to brown. Servants have washed the marble, but the smell lingers. Copper, oil, and smoke. The city wakes uneasily. Rumours move faster than light. Caesar is dead. No, he lives. He was killed by Brutus. He was killed by the gods. Each voice contradicts the next until the truth becomes a kind of madness. Mark Antony moves through the chaos with deliberate calm. His armour gleams, though he does not wear it as a soldier, but as a warning. He visits the forum, speaks softly to guards, to tribunes, to priests. He does not shout. He does not accuse. He only repeats the same words, measured and low. The people must see his body. They must know who he was. By midday, he has secured what he needs: permission to hold a public funeral. Brutus agrees, believing it a gesture of peace. Let the people mourn, he says. Then they will accept what has been done. Cassius frowns but concedes. They still think they have time. They do not. Picture the forum that afternoon. The rostra draped in black cloth, a bier built of cedar and bronze. At its centre, the body of Julius Caesar, now dressed in the robe he wore at his triumph. The laurel crown placed upon his brow, the wounds hidden beneath folds of fabric. Crowds fill every corner. Citizens, soldiers, slaves. The air is thick with murmurs, with disbelief. Antony steps forward. His face is solemn. His voice begins softly. Friends, Romans, countrymen. The crowd leans closer. He speaks not as general nor politician, but as witness. He reminds them of Caesar's generosity, his refusal of the crown, his gifts of grain and land. He points to each wound. This was the stab of Cassius, this of Casca, and here, where the steel of Brutus entered. Judge for yourselves what love they bore him. He does not order them to act. He does not need to. He lets silence do the work. Then, slowly, he lifts the blood-stained toga. The holes are countless. The crowd gasps. Something shifts. A deep animal sound rising from the multitude. It begins as grief becomes fury. Men shout. Women cry out Caesar's name. Stones strike the steps of the rostra. The air fills with dust. The republic the conspirators claim to restore dissolves in the roar of the crowd. Antony steps back. He has said enough. The mob surges forward, bearing torches. Someone cries, "Burn him here before the rostra!" Others echo the call. They seize benches, tables, anything that will burn. The bier becomes a pyre. Flames leap high into the afternoon sky, consuming the cloth, the laurel, the body of the man who once ruled them. The heat drives the crowd backward, but they do not flee. They weep, shout, beat their chests. Some tear at their clothes. Others dip rags in the blood and ash to keep as relics. In the glow of the fire, Antony stands motionless. Behind him, the shadows of the conspirators retreat toward the capital. By nightfall, the city burns. The fire that began with one pyre spreads through streets and houses. The mob breaks loose, hunting those whose names Antony had only whispered, whose faces the crowd already knows. Brutus, Cassius, Casca, each becomes a curse. Windows shatter, doors splinter. The Republic's saviors flee through the alleys like fugitives. Antony watches from the forum as the flames climb. He has said no word of vengeance, yet vengeance rises on its own. He understands power better than any philosopher. He knows that reason never rules for long. Only grief, pride, and the need to believe that loss can be avenged. Imagine Rome under that red sky, the temples glowing like furnaces, the statues black with soot, the air thick with smoke and shouts. Somewhere among the crowd, a man cries that Caesar was a god, that his soul has risen to the stars. Another claims to have seen a comet blazing above the Palatine. The myth is born before the body has cooled. At the edges of the city, the conspirators huddle in borrowed rooms. They listen to the distant thunder of the mob and realize that they have killed not a tyrant, but a god in the making. Brutus writes letters, his words calm but his hands trembling. "We must leave Rome," he tells Cassius. "For now." Cassius spits the words back. "You spoke of honor. Look at what your honor has made." No answer. Only the sound of fire far away, and the knowledge that the republic they dreamed of restoring has already turned to smoke. By morning, the ashes of Caesar's pyre lie scattered across the forum. Children sift through them, searching for coins melted by the heat. Women gather fragments of bone and whisper prayers. The marble of the rostra is cracked, blackened, streaked with soot. Rome is quiet again, but not calm. The city has entered a new kind of war. The Republic is a corpse still warm, and in its shadow, two men stand waiting to inherit its body, Mark Antony and Gaius Octavius, the young heir Caesar named in his will. The funeral is over, the fire still burns, and Rome's future, like its sky, is red. The flames of the pyre have died, but their light still lingers on the marble of the forum. Rome wakes to the smell of smoke, to walls streaked with soot, to streets littered with ash and shards of bronze. The people speak in hushed tones, afraid of what they have done. Caesar's body is gone, but his presence has multiplied. His face appears on charms, on graffiti scratched into walls, on whispers passed from mouth to mouth. He was no tyrant, they say. He was mercy itself. And with every repetition, the Republic fades a little more. Antony has become the city's voice. He moves through the forum in command now, issuing orders, calming crowds, promising justice, but speaking always of loyalty to Caesar's memory. His words are not threats, but honeyed chains. The Senate, terrified, offers amnesty to the assassins, yet grants Caesar divine honors. They think to balance the scales, but all they do is sharpen them. Then a new name begins to spread. Octavius, Gaius, Julius Caesar. Octavianus, a boy of 19, thin, pale, studying in Apollonia when the news arrived. He reads Caesar's will, sealed and witnessed, and sees his own name written where no one expected it. Caesar has adopted him, not in affection, but in calculation. His bloodline, his heir, his replacement. He sails for Italy at once. No army, no wealth, only a name that now carries the weight of empire. Imagine his arrival. A quiet dock at Brundisium, the sea still slick with morning light. Messengers bow low, soldiers salute, though none yet serve him. The wind off the Adriatic smells of salt and ash. Somewhere beyond the hills lies Rome, already trembling at the rumor of his approach. In the capital, Antony hears and frowns. A child, he says. A child will not inherit Rome. He dismisses the thought, but power has its own gravity, and names can conquer where swords cannot. When Octavian enters the city, the people fall silent. He does not shout. He does not weep. He visits the forum, the site of the pyre, kneels and gathers a handful of ash. He says nothing. Then he rises and begins to act. He visits the soldiers who once served under Caesar. He reminds them of their oaths, of the land Caesar promised, of the pay still unpaid. Antony holds the treasury, he says quietly. Yet I am Caesar's son. The effect is slow but certain. One by one, legions begin to drift toward him. Antony senses the shift too late. He tries to summon the Senate to his cause, but the Senate fears them both, the general with the mob and the youth with the name. Brutus and Cassius, still hiding in the shadows, see the city turning again and know their dream is finished. They slip away eastward to raise armies of their own. Rome becomes a map of whispers. Antony in the Forum, Octavian in the Campus Martius, the conspirators vanishing into Greece. The Republic, already broken, fractures again. Picture the two men when they finally meet. Antony, broad-shouldered, scarred, his voice carrying the confidence of command. Octavian, pale, deliberate, eyes cold as flint. You are ambitious for your years, Antony tells him. I am patient for mine, Octavian replies. Their alliance begins not in trust, but in necessity. They form what will be called the Second Triumvirate, Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus, each pretending friendship, each already planning the other's end. Their first act is vengeance. Lists are drawn, names written, prescriptions issued, enemies declared outlaw, their property seized, their blood sold for loyalty. Cicero's name among them, the old voice of the Republic silenced by order of Caesar's heirs. The city learns again what Rome has always known, that revolutions end where they begin, in blood. At dawn, the streets run red once more. The heads of senators hang on the rostra where Caesar's toga once burned. The fire of his funeral has become a fire of purification. But what it purifies is not corruption. It is memory. Every death wipes away another trace of what the Republic had been. Octavian watches, silent, calculating. He lets Antony rage, lets the old soldiers exhaust themselves in vengeance. He understands what they do not, that Rome no longer wants freedom. It wants order, it wants peace, it wants the illusion that someone still holds the reins. He will give them that illusion. By the time Antony realizes, it is too late. Octavian commands the legions, the treasury, and the people's hope. The boy has become what the conspirators feared most. Not Caesar reborn, but Caesar perfected. And far to the east, in the dusty fields of Philippi, the last defenders of the Republic, Brutus and Cassius, prepare to face them. They tell their soldiers that liberty still breathes. They lie. The sun sets red over Rome again. The Tiber carries ashes to the sea. And somewhere, Octavian looks eastward and says quietly, "The Republic died with my father. The rest is inheritance." 2 years have passed. Rome is quiet again, but only on the surface. Beneath that calm, the earth trembles with what is coming. The Republic is no longer a government. It is a memory, carried like a ghost by men who refuse to admit that it has died. And far to the east, in the plains of Macedonia, that ghost will finally be buried. It is October, 42 BCE. The fields near Philippi stretch wide and flat beneath a grey sky. To the west, the armies of the liberators, Brutus and Cassius, wait in fortified lines. To the east, the legions of the triumvirs, Antony and Octavian, march to meet them. 2 visions of Rome face one another across the marshes, one fighting for an ideal, the other for a future already decided. The morning fog clings low to the ground, tents flap in the wind. Soldiers sharpen blades that have grown dull from too much waiting. Both sides know what this day means. There will be no negotiations, no peace, no return. When the sun sets, one Rome will cease to exist. In the camp of the liberators, Brutus walks among his men. His face is calm, composed, the mask of a philosopher worn by a soldier. Cassius watches him with unease. "Do you think the gods favor us?" he asks. Brutus answers softly, "They favor none. We have made our own gods now." He says it without pride, without conviction, only fatigue. Across the field, Antony rides the line of his legions. He speaks not of liberty but of vengeance. "These are the men who murdered your father," he tells the soldiers. "The men who spilled the blood of Rome." Beside him, Octavian remains silent. He watches everything. He has learned to let others speak while he counts the gain. Picture the moment before the first clash. The wind is still. The sound of banners snapping breaks the silence. Somewhere, a crow cries. Then the trumpets call, and the armies move. The ground shakes. Shields lock, arrows darken the sky. The Battle of Philippi begins not with courage, but with chaos. Marshes swallow horses. Men vanish into mud. Trumpeters fall, their instruments still pressed to their lips. The air fills with dust, shouts, and the dull rhythm of iron striking flesh. Cassius's flank holds at first, then falters. His messengers lose their way in the smoke. Brutus presses forward, thinking victory near, not knowing that Cassius is already surrounded. From a hill, Cassius sees his own camp overrun by Antony's men. He believes Brutus is dead. Despair overtakes him faster than the enemy. He orders his servant to draw his sword and falls upon it. His final words, bitter, quiet, "Caesar, you are avenged." When Brutus learns the truth, it is too late. He gathers his soldiers once more, speaks of honor, of courage, of the Republic's last stand. "If we must die," he says, "let it be as Romans." They cheer, though many no longer understand what that means. At dusk, the second battle begins. The liberators fight like men trying to undo the past. The triumvirs fight like men who already own the future. Antony drives his legions forward, relentless. Octavian remains behind the lines, sick, but his orders are clear. No retreat. By nightfall, the field is a graveyard of broken standards and unclaimed armor. The The cries of the dying carry through the dark like the echo of prayers the gods no longer answer. Brutus stands on a ridge overlooking the ruin. The moonlight catches the edges of his blade. Around him, the last of his officers wait in silence. He asks no questions. There is nothing left to ask. He knows the Republic ends here, in this mud, beneath this foreign sky. He turns to one of his companions. "Hold my sword," he says. "Caesar's ghost has followed me long enough." The man hesitates. Brutus smiles faintly, that philosopher's calm returning one last time. "It is better this way," he says. "No Roman shall die by a king's order, only by his own." He falls forward onto the blade. The sound is small, almost gentle. The quiet punctuation at the end of a sentence, 12 centuries long. When Antony finds the body, he covers it with his cloak. "He was the noblest Roman of them all," he says, and he means it. But even in that act of mercy, the truth stands unbending. Nobility has lost, and power has won. At dawn, the mist rises from the fields. Thousands of corpses lie unburied. The crows descend. Octavian rides among them without expression. "Bury them," he says. "All of them. Let the earth take what the Republic could not keep." His voice carries the calm of inevitability. He does not speak of victory, only completion. The ghost of Caesar, imagined or not, has been avenged. The blades that once cut him down have been answered by 1,000 more. Brutus lies silent. Cassius, beside him, a broken reflection of his own ambition. The Republic, that had ruled for 500 years, lies dead with them in the mud. The world turns quietly. Rome will have no more Brutus, no more Senate that dares to defy. In their place will come something colder, more enduring. A single ruler, cloaked in law, armed with peace, adored by all. The fields of Philippi are empty now. Only the wind remains. And in that wind, the last breath of the Republic whispers once, then disappears. The fields of Philippi lie quiet now. The blood has dried. The crows have gone. Only the earth remembers, and it remembers everything. In the east, Antony lingers among the ruins, dividing spoils, soothing soldiers, speaking of duty and reward. In the west, Octavian sails back to Italy. He is 21. He has won nothing by strength, but everything by patience. The Republic is dead, though few yet dare to name its killer. Rome greets him not as conqueror, but as heir. The Senate, desperate for stability, crowns him with honours once meant for Caesar. Princeps Senatus, Imperator. Each title cloaked in tradition, each one hollowed of its original meaning. He accepts them all with a quiet humility that disarms even his enemies. He does not threaten. He does not shout. He simply governs. Picture the city he returns to, its marble cracked from neglect, its forum half burned from riots, its temples dusty with abandonment. The people line the streets again, cheering not from loyalty but from exhaustion. They are tired of war, tired of hunger, tired of the chaos that followed freedom. Octavian gives them what they crave most, not liberty, but rest. He reopens the granaries. He pays the veterans. He rebuilds the temples. He speaks of restoring the Republic, even as he rewrites its foundations. Mark Antony, far to the east, watches uneasily. His armies are stronger, his charisma greater, his pride limitless. Yet in Rome, his name grows smaller each year. He governs the provinces, but Octavian governs perception. He knows that power is not held by those with the most legions, but by those who write the story afterward. Years pass. The alliance between them fractures. Lepidus fades, discarded like an obsolete title. Antony drifts toward Egypt, toward Cleopatra, queen, lover, and symbol of everything foreign to Rome. Together they dream of a new empire from Alexandria. Together they seal their fate. Octavian waits. He does not rush the moment. He spreads whispers in the Senate. Antony bows to the east. He gives Rome's provinces to a foreign queen. He calls himself God beside her. Each rumor spreads like cracks in marble. When the time comes, the Senate declares war not on Antony, but on Cleopatra, a convenient fiction, preserving the illusion that Romans never fight their own. Octavian sails with a fleet built not only of ships, but of words. At Actium, the sea becomes judgment. Antony's armada burns. His soldiers scatter. Cleopatra flees. The lovers die by their own hands. A mirror image of the conspirators who once killed Caesar. The pattern completes itself. Every rebellion against fate ends in self-destruction. Rome celebrates. The Senate hails Octavian as Augustus, the revered one. He accepts modestly, claiming to restore the Republic while taking every power it once divided. He becomes consul, tribune, censor, and pontiff, all in one man. He governs not by terror, but by absence of alternatives. The city transforms under his rule. New forums rise. Roads extend to the edges of the known world. Statues of peace stand where legions once camped. Augustus closes the temple of Janus, the gate of war, and for the first time in living memory, Rome believes it is safe, but safety has a price. The Senate still meets, but it votes as he wishes. The people still cheer, but their cheers are managed by spectacle. Freedom becomes a performance played within boundaries he draws. Power has learned to hide behind virtue. Imagine standing in the forum at dusk. The marble gleams gold under the last light. Citizens stroll through colonnades, unaware that the republic they think they live in no longer exists. The Senate House stands rebuilt, taller than before, its walls inscribed with the deeds of Augustus. In every corner, his image, calm, youthful, eternal. The man who promised peace has made himself indispensable. The city is quieter now, its chaos replaced by order, its voices subdued by gratitude. For most Romans, it feels like deliverance. For history, it is metamorphosis, the Republic dissolving into empire as naturally as day into night. Caesar's death had been meant to save liberty. It birthed monarchy instead. The blades of the Senate gave Rome not freedom, but Augustus. The irony is absolute. The men who feared a king created one. The man who claimed to restore the Republic buried it with ceremony and incense, and yet, as centuries pass, his empire will outlast them all. Roads, aqueducts, language, law. The skeleton of civilization built on the bones of the Republic. Rome will call him divine. The poets will name his reign a golden age, and the memory of Caesar, once the wound of Rome, will become its myth, avenged, fulfilled, eternal. Picture that marble world one last time. The torches flicker, the crowds disperse. Above them all, the statue of Augustus looks toward the horizon, serene and unblinking. Behind that stillness lies the truth, that every empire begins with a funeral, and every peace is built upon a silence that someone else paid for. The Republic is gone, the empire has begun, and somewhere, beyond the stars, the ghost of Julius Caesar smiles, not in vengeance, but in recognition, for he has been avenged not by blades, but by time. Night settles over Rome, soft and endless. The streets are quiet now. The air smells of olive oil, stone, and the faint smoke of lamps burning behind shuttered windows. The empire sleeps, but history does not. It murmurs beneath the marble, whispering of the day when freedom fell beneath 23 knives. Centuries will pass, the names will fade, the wounds will heal, but the pattern will remain. Power never dies, it only changes form. Each generation will look back to that morning in March when senators swore they were saving the Republic and discover that they were only clearing the path for a crown. Picture, if you will, the Curia Pompeia now, its roof long collapsed, its stones worn smooth by time. Tourists walk where Caesar bled, taking photographs, their voices light, their footsteps careless. The marble remembers, though. The stain that once marked the floor still darkens faintly when it rains. What began as murder became myth. Caesar's death was meant to warn men against tyranny. Instead, it taught them how to master it. Emperors would study his story, not as tragedy, but as scripture. Augustus learned patience, Tiberius learned concealment, Caligula learned that fear can rule more firmly than love. And so the line continued, century after century, each ruler drawing from the same lesson written in blood, that men crave order more than liberty and will trade freedom for peace if peace promises to. Last, the Republic had lasted 500 years. The empire that replaced it would endure for almost 500 more. The dream of balance between citizen and state had died, replaced by the cold efficiency of a single will. Rome became marble, law, empire, eternal and empty. Yet the ghosts of that day never left. Every ruler who followed heard them. Every senate that gathered beneath the gaze of an emperor felt their eyes, the daggers of the Ides hung invisible above every throne thereafter, a quiet reminder that no crown rests easily. Imagine the contrast, the boy who became Augustus ruling over a city that once believed itself, free citizens walking beneath, triumphal arches dedicated to peace won through, annihilation poets writing verses to glorify the man who ended debate by making it unnecessary. In the hush of those streets, the Republic exists only as memory, preserved in marble inscriptions few bother to read. Still, history has its own irony. The empire that rose from Caesar's ashes would one day fall the same way, not by invasion, but by decay, by the quiet erosion of belief. The idea that men could govern themselves, briefly extinguished, would smoulder beneath the rubble and catch fire again centuries later, in Florence, in Paris, in Philadelphia. Each time men spoke of liberty, they whispered his name, sometimes as warning, sometimes as inspiration. Julius Caesar became both, the tyrant slain and the visionary betrayed, the founder and the destroyer, the victim and the example. He belongs to no side. He is the shadow every republic casts when it forgets its limits. Picture the forum at night, empty, the moon bright on stone. The ruins stand like bones of a vanished creature. Somewhere among them, a stray cat passes over the broken floor where senators once fled. It steps soundless. The wind moves through the columns, and for an instant it seems to speak. It does not say who was right, Brutus or Caesar, freedom or order. It only repeats the lesson carved into the history of all empires, that every promise of power begins in idealism and ends in silence, that no system lasts forever, that every republic, no matter how noble, walks toward its own Ides. And so, as you rest in the quiet hours, let the story close gently. The noise of Rome fades, the torches dim, the marble cools. Somewhere beyond the Tiber, dawn begins again, indifferent and eternal. Caesar sleeps. The blades are rust. The empire he never saw still glimmers in the distance, vast, radiant, doomed to repeat what began beneath Pompey's statue. History is not peace, it is persistence, and in that persistence, the world keeps turning. Good night from the Drowzy Historian.